I will. This one's. Oh, wait, underneath that other paper.
Yeah. I stole this one from the trigger.
It's paper in between everything. You need that one? Or did you-
Thank you.
Jen will let us know when we go on the air. So we are on the air. I'm gonna run the meeting just to get started, and then there's a couple things we're adding to the agenda, which I'll talk to you about. So today we are at the Airport Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. And I would like to call it to order, so I'm gonna call a roll call. Dave Lamontagne,
Here.
Roger Johnson,
Here.
Glenn Preston, Ryan Rank, Nancy Jenkins Arnold, Eric Rogers.
Here.
All right, we do have a quorum. So there's a couple things we are going to need to add to the agenda today if you are comfortable with it, otherwise we can wait. We need to appoint a chairman and a vice chairman. And then we will also need to talk about the terms of office for those of you that have been appointed. The terms are supposed to be staggered. And so we'll need to have some volunteers for a 3-year, 2-year, and 1-year term. So we can get to those in just a minute. Okay. So the first thing we'll do is we've called to order. Can I get an approval for the minutes of March 31st, 2025? At this point, I would take a so moved and a second.
Second.
All those in favor say yes.
Yes. Yes.
All those opposed say no. Okay. So today what we're here to discuss is the organization and procedures manual under which the Zoning Board of Appeals is going to be operating. But before we get there, I already mentioned a couple topics that I wanted to talk to you guys about. Does anyone at this meeting since we have a quorum, we're short a couple of the regular members. Are you comfortable in making an appointment of a chairperson and a vice chairperson today? And if so, do I have any nominations for a chairperson? Okay. Okay.
Can we not appoint him in his absence?
Oh, he could be appointed in his absence, most definitely. Okay. All right, so do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion to appoint Ryan Rank as chairperson of the Zoning Board of Appeals. All those in favor, say yes.
Yes. Yes.
All those opposed? Very good. Do I have any volunteers or nominations for the vice chair?
I nominate Glenn Preston.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to appoint Glenn Preston as the Vice Chair of the Airport Zoning Board of Appeals. All those in favor, say aye, or yes, excuse me.
Yes.
Yes.
All those opposed? Okay, at this point, we have a chair and a vice chair. Your chair is absent. So Vice Chair, would you like to begin leading the meeting, or would you want to wait until the next meeting for that? If I can help you along this time, since you just got appointed? Okay. The next item, I think we'll wait until we have more people here, and that is the staggering of the terms. We have 5 board members. We should have 1 person with a 1-year term, 2 people with a 2-year term, and 2 people with a 3-year term. So if you want to start thinking about that between now and our next meeting as to which one of those terms you would like to fulfill. I've talked to our board chairman, Chairman Van Doren, and he had indicated he was comfortable with you, with you volunteering for whichever one of those positions that you wanted so that we could get that solidified. All right, on to the reason that we're here today. It is the Airport Zoning Board of Appeals Organization and Procedures Manual. We had a joint meeting last month where you had a meeting with the actual zoning board. Ms. Hunt or Stephanie Ward was here from Eden Hunt, and we kind of talked about the ordinance that the airport falls under, as well as this document a little bit. So I don't know if you've had any opportunity between the last meeting and now to review the document, but if you're okay, I would like to kind of go through the document a little bit. I did make you a copy, which you have before you right now, and it does have some of my notes in it that I thought we would want to discuss. And if you have any comments or concerns, we can discuss those also. Just a reminder, as we talk, make sure that your microphone is on. There is a push button in the middle of the base. Just make sure your green light is on so that your voices can be picked up on the recording. So as we go through this and we get past the table of contents, the introduction, you can see that there's a few comments on this page, more so under the officers, I'd like to point out, which is under section 3 procedures. This is where the officers are called for a chairperson, a vice chairperson, and a secretary. Earlier today, we did not appoint a secretary, and that's because, quite frankly, the administrator's office will serve in that capacity on your behalf. Unless one of you are really desirous of being the secretary and taking the minutes and scheduling the meetings, we can let you do that. But I thought you may want us to take care of that for you. So in this particular case, what I would be recommending is striking item D and all of the 1, 2, 3, and 4 that come after that. Does that sound good?
Do you need a motion to do that or just?
No, I think right now we're just going to have discussion on it. And then what my plan would be is to take these changes back, make the changes. We'll call you together one more time so that we can then formally adopt the plan, as well as hopefully agree to those staggered terms so that we can update the plan with those terms too. So this is meant more today to be more of a roundtable discussion. If you see things, questions, concerns, just bring them up and we can move forward. If we go on to the next page with the word meetings on it halfway down, I don't really have any changes on that page other than the elimination of the things I've just mentioned. The next one,
Administrator.
oh yeah, I'm sorry. No, just go ahead and speak.
Would it be efficient to, with the required annual meeting, to combine that with the airport zoning board and do it at one meeting?
We could, that is an option. We could do that. I can check with the zoning board to see what they think of that, but yeah, we could do that.
To do it concurrent just makes
Mhm.
sense. One would hope that both are brief and concurrent would allow good communication and get both requirements out of the way.
Mhm. Yep, as you guys have seen, it is a requirement that the zoning board of appeals meet at least once annually. Who knows if we'll need to meet more often than that? Hopefully not, but we need to make sure that we do that. So that's a good idea. All right, if we move on to the next page, which is page 5 of the document, the top starts with the word quorum. I don't know if anybody has any specific changes here. There's a few that are on your screen for you. When it gets down to under absences, removals, resignations, and vacancies, I did add, you can see my notes there on the copy that I made you this afternoon. There's the word joint that I think needs to come out. And then as we go under the conflict of interest, as you can see, there's an more updated version on the board, but basically we want to be able to be compliant with the conflict of interest disclosure policy that the Board of Commissioners have adopted. So there's some proposed language that basically the ZBA members are subject to the county's conflict of interest and disclosure policy. And in addition, the members, and then it should go on, shall declare a conflict of interest and abstain from participating in a hearing or deliberations on a request when items 1, 2, 3, and 4. Some of them are very specific to the zoning board of appeals that would not necessarily be in the county's conflict and disclosure policy, such as number 3, where it says the ZBA member owns or has a financial interest in neighboring property. That's not necessarily in the other policy, so I thought it should be left in this document. Any comments on that page?
We'll be able to see that policy. I've never seen it before.
You haven't seen it? Yeah, I can get you a copy of it.
Can't imagine I have any conflict, but I don't know, but I'm looking at it.
And if you, just so that you're aware too, if you go to the county's website and Google the conflict of interest policy, it would come up on our website too. But we can get you, oh, and look, Jen's taking you there right now if you look at the board. So you can see we have a number of policies and procedures right there next to the arrow on the right-hand side. There you go. So this is the document. It's fairly straightforward. It was adopted by the Board of Commissioners. It was actually created and adopted in 2024 by the Policy and Procedures Committee and then adopted by the full board last year.
I'll look at it. You don't have to get me a copy. I'll just look on the.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments or other suggested changes on that page? All right, moving on to page 6. Refers to the appeal procedure. Don't know if there's anything there. You can see there's a specific process that any applicant needs to follow as well as a fee associated with that. Moving on to the next page, page 7. The only thing I had suggested here, it's not up on the board, is under amendments, it says these bylaws and rules of procedures. This document is actually entitled Organization and Procedures Manual. So we should go with one or the other. And I don't know if you guys have a preference on what we call it, but we should call it one thing or the other.
Keep it the same all the way through.
Yeah. So you don't have any preference, we can just leave it with the Organization and Procedures Manual, which is on the front. Unless anyone's wanting to leave it that way, we'll make that change. The next page is attachment A, and it refers to all of you. And this is where you can see the term expiration dates. This is what I was talking about earlier. Everyone was appointed to the board and automatically, it's a 3-year appointment. However, according to the actual ordinance, which the Board of Commissioners, excuse me, the zoning board is actually reviewing and updating right now. This is not a section they plan on changing, is that each of the members on this board, much like any of your other planning or zoning boards that you may be sitting on, realize that there are staggered terms so that everybody doesn't come up all at once. So what we're going to be looking for is for people to comment on if they have a preference on whether they want the 1-year, 2-year, or 3-year terms. And I don't know if anybody here has any preference and they would want to, at least from the regular members, if you would like to say, sure, go ahead.
I draw names out of a hat and just be, make it random. I'm not sure unless somebody's got another pressing reason as to want a 1-year term or a 3-year term. Random works as good as anything else for me.
We can do that. Keep in mind that even as an example, if somebody says, I'll take the 1-year term, when that term comes up, they can be reappointed, which then gives them another 3 years after that. So it's just setting this initial term so that the end terms are staggered. So
Would the alternate be left at a 3-year term?
I need to double check that, Eric, to find out for sure. My assumption is that it would be, but.
Initially,
Mm-hmm,
and then a 3-year recurring after that?
mm-hmm. Let's see, going on.
Madam, sorry, I live in Raga Town. And that's the phone,
Yes.
it's the phone number to my business.
Could you go up to the top, scroll it up, Jen? Okay, so that phone number is not the phone number you want us to use?
Right.
Okay, if you can write down the phone number or something so that we can have it, we can update that. And it's Riga, not Adrian?
Right.
Okay,
49276.
yeah, if you can get us the phone number you want us to use. Did everybody else double check? Is your information correct? Okay. From there, there's just attachment B is the application for appeal that somebody could complete. And there's a fee structure, the notice that there's going to be a meeting or basically a hearing, and then a map is attached to that. I kind of want to just go through a little bit of the basic process with you. I don't know, has everyone met our airport manager? So this is Thomas, and he will be at each of your meetings. What happens is if somebody applies to the airport, they will give a letter of determination, which means that he needs to take a look to see if they are in compliance or if they're in any kind of violation of any of the ordinances that we have on the airport as far as distance, height, et cetera, use. He'll send out a determination letter, and if he were to deny a request, that applicant could then complete the application, pay the fee, and then we would need to schedule a meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals to be able to take action on that request. So you will want to become familiar not only with the Organization and Procedures Manual, but also with the zoning ordinance, because you will also be using that and along with any other materials that the airport manager will have to help you render a decision. Does anybody have any questions on any of those things? We recently did have an an application come to the airport for a couple towers on his house. Those are 200-foot towers.
They were
Just shy of 200 feet, but they were outside of the 10-mile radius that the airport is responsible for. So those were authorized as being acceptable according to the airport zoning. So I don't know if anyone has any other questions.
I guess I'm curious on, so the situation of a tower like that, they're more than likely leasing the land that they're putting the tower on. Is the applicant actually the company that is proposing to install the tower or the owner of the property?
The previous applicant that we did have was the business that was using the land to put the tower up. So I'm not sure if they were the owner of that land.
Yeah, in this case, there were two applications by the same company. They have a lease on the property, and that lease allows for the specific purpose in which they were applying to the county airport for authorization to move forward with. And actually, I shouldn't say authorization to move forward. They were just checking to make sure that they were not in any violation of the airport zoning ordinance. And he made the determination that it was not, it was outside his scope. And so they may still have to get approval through FAA or other organizations, but as it applies to the Lenawee County Airport zoning ordinance, it fell outside of that scope. But it was the organization applying.
Would that information, when someone applies for that, would that information also come to us so at least we're aware of it? Or would it just go to Thomas at that time?
At this point, it goes just to the airport manager. He also serves as what's called the zoning administrator for the airport. And so those applications come to him. It's up to, if there is a process by which an email were to be sent that this application was received and it was approved or something like that. That's something that he could update you on if you wish, but you really wouldn't have any responsibility unless he were to deny an application, and then you would get all of his materials, his research materials, as well as anything else that you might need to help make a decision. Okay. We're done with that. Is there any public comment? Okay. Any member comment?
So just another curious question. So because this is relatively new and the board's being reenacted, as a zoning administrator, are you strictly relying on the applicant to apply or to go through you? Or what if you were to come aware of, let's say, a cell tower that was being built where they hadn't contacted you to make sure, and they were within that 10-mile radius? Do you kind of start doing your own proactive enforcement on that?
So we have come across a couple of those in the past, and most of these applicants aren't aware that there is anything like that. So the first thing that usually they have to do is they have to go through an aerospace study, stuff like that through the FAA. And then usually I'll get an email or a phone call or some type of information from that study. And then I relay the information. Okay, they do fall within our lines. And then I send over that I am the zoning administrator. And now that we have enacted this board, I send them their this application, then everything starts to flow into place. So most people don't understand that there is, and then I kind of just start to lead them back to me. So, yeah.
I want to kind of add on to that, because you bring up a really good point. At our last joint meeting, we were talking about how not only do people building things may not understand that there are some rules that apply to the airport, but a lot of our villages, cities, and townships don't realize that there is that space requirement. And when you start looking at 10 miles from the Lenawee County Airport, it encompasses the city of Adrian, it encompasses a lot of area. And so once we get the zoning ordinance fully updated, we plan on sending out information to all of the cities, villages, and townships within that 10-mile radius to let them know that this does exist, and if they are looking at building something, what the restrictions are, because it can get kind of scientific, because it's not necessarily just within any 10-mile radius. When you start venturing further out, it has to do with the direction that the runway is facing and what those approaches and stuff look like. So that information will be going out once we get everything finalized so that we can make sure that everyone's been notified.
That raises a key point, and I don't recall if it was a commissioners meeting or an airport zoning board meeting, but there were some comments made that says we don't interfere, or we don't get involved with local zoning issues. And what you just said says, yes, we do. We absolutely do.
Yeah, I think what we want to say here is that we're not dabbling in their zoning but they need to be aware that this does trump some of the other ordinances that may be there if they are in the flight pattern of the runway. So
Yep.
it's an awareness factor that we need to make sure everyone is aware of.
Everyone, yes.
Any other member comment? If not, I will take a motion to adjourn. Second? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed? All right, we are adjourned.